May we join palms and pay our respect to our speaker. One bow. Yep, please be seated.
Good evening. Auspicious greetings. Chinese is 吉祥, 大家吉祥. So this is actually my third trip to Singapore. Stephen's an old friend, so he just mentioned that back in 2005, when this was like nothing, this is like, I came with Master for the groundbreaking, and I was amazed. Like, I came back in 2009 for the Blian meeting, and the temple was here. Wow, and everything was running. And then the building, bang, 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 all day long, okay, right behind. And still, it was quite empty. But this time, wow, okay. And this is such a busy place. And I heard that Venerable Manke said, once this was built, it's already bursting at the seams. It's already, filled to capacity. So I was very happy to have this opportunity. I was invited by Venerable Miao Guang, and I think she's lining up different monastics from Foguangshan in different temples and also at the head temple there to come and share the Dharma with all of you. So it's really my honor to be here today. And according to Venerable Miao Guang, so Singapore is the place we have the best English speakers and devotees because you're so diligent and serious about learning. So that's why we have 2 nights. So we need to really have spent time to share with everyone. And so I think this year it's all on sutras. And for those of you who really have a copy of the sutra here, I'm sure you know that, or maybe you even, if you're bilingual, I'm sure you'll be very dedicated with Pumenpin, right? Pumenpin. So I would say, okay, this is again, one of my favorites as well, the Lotus Sutra, and of course, for most Chinese devotees, Pumenpin, especially I think for many of the ladies here, I think it's their only practice, the daily practice, and Guanyin Pusa, right? So I think I am very fortunate, okay, to have this opportunity to share with you. And of course, Master always says, compassion is something we must have. Even if we don't have anything, okay, I'm not smart, I don't have money, I don't have any, but we must have compassion. Of course, compassion is our basic kindness. And I'm sure that every one of you here would appreciate compassion because you have it. You definitely have it, okay? So I was thinking of a name because I think Lotus Sutra, maybe many of you would have studied it. How many of you have really read the Lotus Sutra in either language, English or Chinese? 妙法莲华经. Oh, okay. It's a big one, right? Yeah, so at Xinai Temple, during the course of 1 year, we will always have at least once or twice for our a morning chanting. We would recite, chapter by chapter, or like 2-3 chapters together, the whole Lotus Sutra a few times, maybe 2-3 times a year. So it's like in the course of a year. And we know that it's actually a very well-known, very popular sutra, not just with the Chinese, and I think with many schools, and I could tell you later on and share with you. Lotus Sutra, of course, the best known is Pumenpin, Universal Gate. Personally, before I really learned more about Buddhism, when I lived in Vancouver, Canada, where Foguangshan also has a branch temple there, and this is where I started to learn Buddhism. And every 初一十五, new moon and full moon, okay, the practice at Foguangshan is to recite Pumenpin for the Guangming Dangma, right? There may be different names, okay, like the light offering service or maybe full moon or new moon. So it's easier to remember because it's 初一 is new moon, 15 is the full moon. So we would always recite Pumenpin, or the Universal Gate chapter. So I don't quite understand. So all of a sudden, the Buddha was there and then say, Wu Jin Yi Pusa, okay, one of the bodhisattvas got up and asked a question and then blah, blah, go on and on. And, I said, no, is this a sutra? But a pin, okay, chapter, okay, pin. In Chinese is pin. In English would be a chapter. So I don't really understand. I did not really understand what it is. So I started to learn more and more. And finally, I had the opportunity to really, because of a service or of a retreat, we were reciting the Lotus Sutra. So the Lotus Sutra is really inside, Pumenpin is inside the Lotus Sutra, is one of the chapters. So, and then it's very popular, very well recited, and very well known. And if you have read it, you know which chapter is that? Yes, 20-something. So it's almost at the end, And there's a lot of symbolism. So for those of you who have been taking classes, or you have been here, or to or other temples maybe in the area, or you go to Foguangshan and learn and maybe listen to a lot of talks before this, I'm sure you know there's a lot of symbolism in Buddhism. And if you're right here in this main shrine, it is beautiful. The first time when I see this temple finished, I was totally, in American terms, this is awesome. This is totally awesome, okay? All the crystal blocks. And first time it was finished was 2009. This is after the inauguration that I came for the first time and see, wow, it was like nothing, all brown and tents. We were having tents, right? There were tents setting up for the groundbreaking, and whoa, this is the temple. And then I came back again as, wow, even better. It's even more impressive. And I can see that people have been coming steadily during the day. This is actually I came on Tuesday, right? I came on Tuesday. This is Friday. And today I had the opportunity to visit some of the Buddhist temples in Singapore, different traditions, old Chinese temples, Theravadan Thai temples, and so on. So I went to look at, and I shared with Venerable Miao Mu, I said, they are very quiet. I don't see people. I don't see visitors, actually, almost. I did not see too many. It was, of course, it's a work day, right? But no, not here. First thing in the morning, okay, you started having people coming in, talking to one of our monastics, to our venerables, the Venerable Miao Mu, and they said, oh, hi, I'm here, okay, and then they drop in for a cup of coffee and discussions and meetings and hello and so on. It's very different. You know why? Because we are open. We are very welcoming, and you get to see the monastics. So I visit those temples, and I only see some very old people. I'm sorry, I have nothing against old people, of course, but you just see some people who are they're not very energetic, should I say, And I said, I don't see like people coming in with passion. I don't see people coming in very enthusiastic about visiting a temple. And I've been to about, I think, 4. It's just a very short afternoon, so I just went out and came back in a couple of hours. And we don't really see a lot of people. So, it's good to see a place that is thriving, that's really part of the community, because Master Hsing Yun said, Buddhism, humanistic Buddhism is what? It's something that people need. So that means you come here. Anybody force you to come? No, right? A lot of people come in the morning, they come for lunch, they come for tea, they just come in and talk to people and do a visit or make a bow or look at some of the gifts or whatever. They feel comfortable because this is what they need in their lives, okay? And of course, is what the Buddha taught, okay? So don't think that the Buddha is like very, high and, little people here. No, the Buddha is not like that. The Buddha reached out to everyone. The Buddha traveled, right, to different villages, to travel to different kingdoms, to teach. He would speak to kings. He would speak to ministers, very, very wealthy people. He would speak to the poor, everyone, okay, or even to celestial beings. So this is a place that we should be. So we are very happy that, we can have this as a channel. This is a center for your spiritual life, a center for your life of wisdom, we hope so. So today, after I come back, I said, wow, I can feel very strongly that we are very different. We're very different. So, and I see many devotees who came for morning chanting. They stay behind and they continue to do their practice. They have study groups, okay? So I say, wow, early morning you already have a class, and in the evening, more classes. So that's a good thing. So that means people really need and like the Dharma. So I'm happy to be here. So let's take a look, okay? Let's take a look. I have this cool pointer, but this is too big. So this is too far, but I can at least, I cannot point to anything, but it's good that I can. So discovering the universal gate to the lotus. So this is just explained earlier on. The Lotus Chapter. There are 20. Actually, there are 20 plus chapters. So let's see how many. Okay. So the Universal Gate chapter, okay, is one of the key chapters. All right. So let's take a look. Okay. In Chinese, I would just say briefly. 妙法 okay, 很妙 okay, 妙法莲华经 is just a very brief name, or very popular name that a lot of people may know of if you know Chinese. So we call it the wondrous Dharma, okay, Lotus Flower Sutra. So that is almost the exact translation, okay, of the Chinese. And I have to confess, I'm not very good at Sanskrit or Pali, so I tend to read it as English. Saddhamma, okay, Saddhamma Pandarika Sutra, all right? So this is the Sanskrit name, all right? This is the Sanskrit name of the Lotus Sutra. So let's take a look at this. Okay, let's start with the name, okay? The name in Sanskrit, I just mentioned. So Sat means wonderful, fine, is proper, or the right Dharma. So Dharma, of course, the teachings. Okay, so that means it's a wonderful teachings, it's a proper, right teachings, okay? And of course, all what we call teachings is what the Buddha taught, okay, the Buddha's teachings. So this is referred to the Buddha's teachings, okay? And the last word, okay, Pandarika means the lotus flower. So if you look around, most temple, or you just look around, what is a huge lotus flower? Right here. Yeah, the Buddha or a Bodhisattva will usually be on like what we call a lotus seat or lotus throne, okay? So, or sometimes you can look at ceilings of a temple, or even on the floor, they may have lotus flowers, okay? So the lotus flower, of course, is a huge symbol in Buddhism. Often we look at some places or some of the designs, even in very recent contemporary designs, when they refer to Buddhism, okay, the lotus flower would be something they will always use very, very commonly, okay? It's very, very usual that you will find, or even you go to a vegetarian restaurant, and I would say the vegetarian restaurant in Singapore is the best. Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to all vegetarian restaurants and not just go to any restaurant and say, do you have vegetarian dishes? Okay, so, then you see that they would have a lotus flower, at the door or on the menu or some of the decorations. So you could see right away, somehow, it has become like a culture. The lotus flower is like a culture in Buddhism for them to kind of look at, okay, so this must be Buddhist, okay? So let's look a little bit further. Okay, and then of course there are different translations. First of all, we say the Wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra, or sometimes it's even called the Sutra of the Lotus of the Wonderful Law. Now, in Chinese, fa, right? So, Miao Fa. So, fa means what? Or sometimes, right away you think of law. Okay, it's the law of the land. Okay, fa hui, fa lü, or whatever you want to put it. So, and sometimes if you read some of the Buddhist writings, either printing or even like internet, of course. There are a lot of things out there. So, but when we have to be careful with what we see on the internet, of course. And the wonderful law, Miao Hsi, okay. But if you look at it, law is not really that off as a translation, because law is like how things work in a way. It's like the law of Singapore. So it's how things in Singapore should be conducted, how things work, all right? And of course, we use Dharma, okay? Dharma Flower Sutra, or just simply the lotus flower. But if you really look at the word Dharma and law, there's actually a relationship. So it's not really a strange translation. When I was teaching in America, when I was teaching Buddhism classes at CLI, I would kind of, most of you have been learning for a while, I'm sure, that you have some idea. But so, like a lot of Americans, when they come for the first time or they're very new, they're not quite sure what Dharma, okay? We say, for us to refer to the triple gem is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, right? So we usually have Buddha, of course, with a capital B, right? And Dharma with a capital D, and the Sangha with a capital S. So we refer to it as a triple gem, or what we call the original triple gem. So there's the Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha, we all know that. And Dharma with a capital D, of course, we say, oh, it's the teachings, okay? It's just general teachings or all Buddhist teachings. Sometimes you just call it Dharma, Fa. However, when I look at it, if you read more, sometimes we have a small case D, Dharmas. So what is that? So what is small case D, Dharmas? It's all phenomena. Everything, you, me, here, this building, everything is Dharma. It's a phenomena, all phenomena. So what is the relationship between a capital D Dharma and a small case Dharmas? The truth. The truth of all the Dharmas, of all phenomena, is dependent origination. And that becomes the capital D Dharma. So that's the teaching. Okay? So that's how I could relate to them. And then sometimes say, oh, okay, now I kind of understand, what Dharma is about. So small case and a capital. Both can be, you can say that this is how things work. So if you say it's the law, it's not really off. That is also the law. The law of how things work is dependent origination. Emptiness is what the Buddha taught. Okay? So when they say law, you say, what? Law is 法律. No, it's not. It's how things work. So we sometimes even call it the law of causality. The law of causality, cause and effect. Okay, so I would look at it and say, at first I said, wonderful law. Oh yeah, it is a wonderful law. It is a wonderful truth, okay, of how things work. That's why we call it the capital D Dharma, all right? But of course, if you read different books from different writers and authors or teachers, they may have their own interpretation, okay? You may look at it, sometimes people just put everything small case. And I think they have, the intention behind would be they look upon everything as the teachings. Okay, everything speaks the Dharma too, so we can look at it this way as well. Okay, so we look at it, and of course, the most, when you really, there are a few translations actually into English. I wish I could bring all my personal copies, okay. I think there's one by, I think his name is Green. I met him, and he's in the Japanese Buddhism. So he was a translator. It's that thick, okay? So there are different versions of the Lotus Sutra. Very long, okay, very long. If you read the Chinese, if your Chinese is good, and you really enjoy classical reading, this is excellent, because this is very beautifully translated into Chinese. And after many readings, I come to appreciate some of the old words. I'm Cantonese. So inside there's some old words that I discussed with my fellow venerables. One of them said, you know what, that means 傾偈. Yeah, 傾偈，就是它是傾偈，就是说我们we're just talking, we're just chatting, okay? So some of the old words are very beautiful. So if you really like Chinese literature, if you really enjoy classical Chinese, that's excellent reading. All right, excellent reading. And of course, we have here Master Xing Yun. I think many years ago, he already have interpretation of the Universal Gate chapter right here, and it's a very good explanation of the sutra as well. So this is one thing that you can refer to too. I have my personal copies. I think it's up in the room. So this is basically the name, okay? So just to share with you, and maybe you've heard of it in Chinese as well, one master back in his days, he just talked about the word miao, wondrous or wonderful, for 9 months or 90 days. Yes, 90 days, I think it's 90 days. He would carry on. Every night he would talk about miao. What is miao? And how it can be called miao, okay? So I would tell Americans, you know, I'm so happy because my name is also Miao. And we have very Miao Mu, Miao Jue, okay? So we do have a big group of Miao at Fo Guangshan, okay? So this is something that we could be quite proud of, all right? So let's move on. Now, of course, this sutra was spoken by the Buddha, by Sakyamuni Buddha, okay? And it's considered one of the, what we call the Nirvana Sutras, okay? It's like towards the end of Sakyamuni's life on earth. So sometimes it's considered as part of the Nirvana Sutra group, all right? Now, we say that it is considered the Buddha's ultimate teaching, okay? The ultimate teaching. And then we say the final Dharma, okay? And we say inside, if you really study the whole, if you really read carefully, okay? If you really read carefully, chapter by chapter, it contains what we call the final revelation on the universality of liberation. So how do we gain liberation? Okay, how do we learn? Okay, what are some of the things that the Buddha would tell us? Now that's the way to liberation. Okay, and also we say that it's the way to Buddhahood. We say there's a nature and the way to Buddhahood. Okay, and so there's so many. If you read the Sutra, there are a lot of analogies, and it's all based on what we call the Buddha vehicle. All right, so this is like how we can take all those ways that the Buddha taught, all the teachings, okay, and then we can apply all these means, okay, in attaining Buddhahood. So that's why it says this is the final or the universal revelation, okay, by the Buddha. It's at the end of his life in this human world, okay, as Sakyamuni Buddha. So we say this is the ultimate teaching. And sometimes it's referred to what? The king of the sutras, you see. So if you really look at the sutra, so we say it's regarded as the pure, complete, unique, okay, and solidarily wonderful teaching, okay, in Buddhism. So when you take time to read it, and you would see that the Buddha has been talking and telling you a lot of stories. There are many, many stories in the Lotus Sutra. And on the stories on the Buddha himself, okay, his previous life, the Buddha talked about different bodhisattvas, and of course, here we were going to, of course, proceed into Guan Yin or Avalokitesvara. Okay, so he would talk about how a certain bodhisattva would teach, or how a certain Buddha or bodhisattva has practiced over the eons or the kalpas, that in their previous life, what happened to them, or what happened at that time in their relationship with the Buddha or with the devotees, and so on. So it's like a storybook. Okay, the Lotus Sutra is like is one big storybook. All right. So and then when you open it and start to read the beginning, there's all the beautiful manifestations of clouds and lights, and the Buddha was about to speak, and people were wondering, why is the brightness that the heavens was giving out, or the Buddha was very calm. He was giving out light, and even his disciples who has been listening for so long, they have not seen this before. They have not seen how the beautiful light was shining, okay? And then they were wondering. So, one of them, does the Sariputra or maybe Maitreya or, his former disciples would be asking, why, okay? They like us almost, like, oh, Master is here. So what would Master be talking about? Okay, sometimes we have a topic, sometimes we don't. Okay, he may come here and just give you maybe a very simple subject, and then you say, what is this? Okay, so what would be spoken on? What would be the teachings? Would be what would be you'll be very curious. So this is the same here. Very, very beautiful writing and very, very good stories. It's like chapter by chapter. It's like story by story, and a lot of analogies. So we say this is, even people were saying that all the sutras that the Buddha taught before is because